Very much. Next slide, please. It's okay. Uh, Thank you for being here. So I think we lost some time, so I'll be quick as fast as I can. So I will start with the EMDR itself, then I will move on to its background and its theory. So EMDR, it stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It is originally an individual psychotherapy technique, and it has been extensively researched and it has been proven effective for the treatment of trauma, stress, or other mood disorders. EMDR, it has a standard 8-step protocol, and this protocol, it combines different elements from different treatment approaches. EMDR, it works on the principles of the adaptive information processing model, which I will talk about later on shortly. But this is the theory and this is the background which EMDR is based on. EMDR, it was originally designed to address experience-based stress. What I mean by that, like the stress or the mental health difficulties that we experience because of the exposure to a traumatic event or painful memories, painful experiences. But today, EMDR is generally considered as an intervention that aims to improve PTSD itself. I find EMDR very user-friendly, and I think it is quite client-centered because in EMDR, it is the client who does the healing. Because EMDR, it activates the client's own healing mechanisms, and these mechanisms, they stimulate personal information processing. Personal information processing, this may sound odd right now, but this is linked to AIP model, and as I said, I will talk about it later on. Next slide, please. The next one, yeah. So the development of EMDR was a chance discovery, actually. Francine Shapiro, you see her picture, she died last year or this year, I'm not sure. She was walking in a park and she decided to watch a tennis game in the park. And she realized that watching the movements of the tennis ball moving from one side of the pitch to another side helped her to calm down. So she decided to study this effect scientifically. And she published the first study in 1989. It's more than 30 years ago now. She is the inventor of EMDR, and in this study, she showed that after only 3 sessions of EMDR, her clients, they no longer meet the criteria for PTSD. The publication was interesting one. So the publication was met by both interest and skepticism because the use of EMDR, it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense at the beginning. And still, it's not very clear why EMDR works. We know some mechanisms, but I think we need to do more work on this. Next slide, please. Can we see the next slide? So EMDR works. We know that it works, and it has been studied in several settings and with different groups with different mental health difficulties. And as a result, it has been found that EMDR is effective in reducing PTSD, depression, anxiety, and other mood disorders and other difficulties. It's quite effective in treating phobias, for example. Next slide, please. And as a result, EMDR is now recommended to treat PTSD as a first-line treatment by several organizations. Here you see only some of them, but probably the major ones: American Psychiatric Association, the World Health Organization, National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, and International Society for Traumatic Stress. There are other institutions also, like Veterans Institutions, which is based in USA, if I'm not mistaken. So it is now recommended to treat PTSD. Next slide, please. So how does, we know EMDR works, but why? How does it work? Well, to be able to answer this question, I think we should first understand how memories are stored in our brain. And this is based on the AIP model, and I will talk about AIP later on again. So according to AIP, according to cognitive psychology, our memories, they are stored temporarily in our hippocampus, which means that when we remember an event or an experience from our past, we not only recall the event itself, let's say it's a success or failure, whatever it is, we also recall the emotions that are attached to the event. So let's say it's a graduation from the university. You remember the moment that you receive your diploma or certification, whatever it is. When you remember that moment, you also remember the emotions that you felt at that time. But as time passes, your brain naturally moves this memory and the emotions to another part of our brain, which allows us to learn from the event, which allows us to process the event. This transference, this movement, it also happens during REM sleep. We do this every day, which means that we remember the event, we remember the emotions, but emotions, they are not much alive anymore. They are not vivid anymore. It's just a memory. It's only a memory after a long time because of the time. But graduation is a positive memory. What if the memory is traumatic one, a challenging one, a sad one? Then our brain has difficulties in completing this transfer, this movement to another part of the brain. It's like the memory, it gets stuck or frozen in our brain, and we can't get over the negative emotions. Even 10 years after the event, we can't get over it. When we remember the event, when we remember the emotions, we experience them as if they are happening at the moment. Next slide, please. So why? Why? Because when a traumatic or disturbing event happened, as I said, the memories, it gets stuck in our brain. Let's say you are an ex-soldier, and let's say you had difficult times at your service in the military. And let's say you are home now, you are safe in your home with your family. And let's say your friend knock on your door. It's nothing dangerous, obviously, but you react as if a bomb exploded next to you, because your memory from painful or traumatic memory from your past is frozen, and you live at that moment. And the stuckness in your brain, the frozenness in your brain, it shapes your current action, reaction, because you live in your past at the moment, and a knock on your door is enough to trigger you at the moment. Next slide, please. So what AIP tells us what AIP hypothesized that these frozen memories, they become the source of stress, and our current emotional, behavioral, or mental health difficulties, they come from this maladaptive storage of our previous life experiences. And no matter how many times after the event, we still remember them as if they are happening right now. Under normal circumstances, like if it's a positive memory, we experience them and we process them after some time. We remember the event, we remember the negative, positive or negative emotions that are attached to the event, but it's only a memory. It's not vivid, it's not warm, it's not hot enough anymore. But if the event is too traumatic or under special circumstances, they lead to overload our brain, and we can't process the experiences, we can't process the memories or emotions, and we keep those memories in our brain as an unprocessed state, and they become the source of stress today. Next slide, please. So what EMDR does is, EMDR, it uses our own capacity for information processing. It's like, for example, when you cut your finger, it heals itself, right, as time passes. It only needs time. But if the cut is too deep, then we may need extra help. And according to EMDR, this is what we do in EMDR. And according to EMDR, according to AIP model, we have this extra help, extra need in our body already. We have it already. And all we need to do is to activate it. We need to activate this extra power that we already have. And how we can do this? We do this by an action called bilateral simulation, or BS in short. So how do we do that? First of all, we in EMDR session, we target a specific memory. We choose a memory. And along with this memory, we also identify the associated body sensations and our self-belief related to memory. So let's say it's a car accident. So this is our event. When you think about this car accident, what do you notice in your body? Let's say it's a pain in my chest. Okay. And when you think about this car accident, what is your self-belief? What do you think about yourself? Well, I am unsafe. So we have car accident, we have pain in the chest, it's our body sensation, and we have the negative self-belief, which is I am unsafe. So in EMDR session, in typical EMDR session, you hold these three elements in your mind and you apply BS, bilateral simulation. Can we see the next slide, please? Can we see the next slide? So I'll show you some pictures of bilateral simulation. It can have several shapes. It can be visual, tactile, or oral, depending on what works best for the client. So it can be eye movement, finger movement before your eyes, or it can be tapping on your shoulders, or it can be tapping on your knees, or it can be some other technical, mechanical devices that and they give you buzzes in your head, and one left and one right. Then you use the bilateral simulation actually. If you can see the next slide, I'll show you some pictures of possible potential bilateral simulation. So here you see the pictures. On the left side, you see they tap on knee. Second picture is finger movements before eyes. The third one is buzzes. It's a device you give buzzes to the client's hand. And the final one is butterfly, like it's tapping on your shoulders, and Muqaddas will show you how do we do this. So we apply this one of these bilateral simulations for 30 seconds in one set, and a session, it usually takes almost 60 or 90 minutes. Next slide, please. So as I said, EMDR, it has 8-phase approach, and phase 1 and 2 are quite similar to other treatments. I don't think we need to talk about them. You ask for client history and you prepare them. This preparation, it includes identifying the psychological or social or economical resources that client has. This is important because EMDR, it includes exposure to traumatic experience. You remember the traumatic experiences. You make your participant, your client, to remember traumatic experiences. So they need to be prepared for this. They need some resources to deal with these recalling, remember, or recall their traumatic experiences. History taking is the same one. Phase 3 is, in phase 3, we just target our memory. What are we going to deal with? What are we going to do work with? Let's say it's the car accident again, and you start desensitization in phase 4. Phase 4, phase 5, and phase 6, it's the EMDR itself. It is the moment that we apply bilateral simulation several times. You start with the traumatic event. You start with similar or with small parts of traumatic events. So if it's the car accident, you don't have to deal with a car accident as a one single chunk of data or event. You can, like when you have your lunch, when you eat your sandwich, like you cut it into pieces, right? You take bites so that you can solve it. That's what we do in EMDR. If it's the car accident, you can start with the sounds of the car accident. You can start with the image of car accident. You can start with the self-belief or car accident. It's up to you. You can work part one part. Installation, as I said, we also identify the negative self-belief in history-taking period, in history-taking phase. And in phase 5, we install the positive self-belief. So let's say it's car accident again, and my self-belief about, and my self-concept, my self-belief about myself is I am unsafe. This is my negative cognition. Then my positive cognition is I am safe. So we install this positive cognition in phase 5 by using bilateral simulation. Phase 6, you scan body again. If you still have the pain in your chest, then it means EMDR didn't work, or it means EMDR is not for you, or you need extra sessions. Phase 7 and phase 8 are the similar phases to other treatments. You check if your client is okay and they are ready to go. Next slide, please. So EMDR, it works with past experiences with a focus on present triggers, but with the aim of future templates. So in EMDR, we ask our clients, ask our participants this question: if you have the same event in future, how would you like to think about yourself? What would you like to do, or what would you like to think about yourself, and or how would you like to react? This is quite important because I think EMDR, we give our participant a skill that they can use in the future. So we not only deal with their past experiences, we not only help them to feel better right now, we also help them, so we also give them a skill that they can use in the future. Next slide, please. There are some points that we need to remember. EMDR, it doesn't take away the memory. It doesn't delete the memory. It doesn't remove the memory from your brain. You still remember the memory after some time. You still remember the emotions that you felt back then, but the emotions or the experience itself, traumatic experience, painful memory itself, it's not anymore stressing. It's like it's distant from, and you see it from a distance. It's like it's gone. It's not warm anymore. I think EMDR, as I said, is quite client-centered, and I think it gives client a feelings of control and autonomy, because it is our brain, your brain, doing the healing. You are in the control during the processing of your memory. What we do in EMDR as a therapist, we only activate your power that you already have. EMDR has no placebo effect. If it works, it means it works. It's not a lie. Next slide, please. And finally, yes, there are some advantages of EMDR. It works very well. It's quite effective in treating PTSD or traumatic stress related to traumatic events. And it's relatively quick treatment. You can see some improvements after 2 weeks of treatment, but there are some disadvantages also. As I said, it includes exposure to traumatic event. You recall the memories, and this is why actually we are asking for our clients whether they have some kind of resources. Because of this exposure to traumatic experience in the therapy, it requires some resources. We ask for psychological resources, or some friend, some economical issues, some social or like social environment they have. This is all I'm going to talk about. If you have questions, I can answer your questions right now, or we can just wait for Muqaddas to deliver her presentation. Zunara, over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. That was a very comprehensive description of the EMDR technique. Moving forward to our next speaker, Ms. Muqaddas Asif. Ms. Muqaddas Asif is a PhD scholar at Institute of Applied Psychology, University of the Punjab. She is Research Associate at Pakistan Institute of Living and Learning. Ms. Muqaddas has worked with people at risk of psychosis, people living with substance use disorder, treatment-resistant disorders, and people with self-harm and suicide. She has a keen interest in eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and therefore she is developing herself as an EMDR therapist. Her research interests include cultural adaptation of psychosocial interventions for substance use disorder, comorbid with PTSD, self-harm and severe mental illnesses, and developing ethical guidelines for mental health professionals. She has been involved in various mental health awareness programs. I would like to invite her to share her perspective on the application of EMDR for the improvement of subjective well-being in the wake of second wave of pandemic. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Zunaira. Thank you, Safa, for explaining EMDR very well. Can you please share the slides? Um, Usman. Thank you. Next slide, please. So Safa has talked about uh, the standard EMDR steps, what EMDR 8 phases. Now I will talk about the low intensity EMDR techniques that we can use to be more in control, to be more resilient, and to feel more safer. As we all know, the current pandemic is a hard and stressful time for all of us. Since the pandemic has set in, many people have lost their loved ones there are incidences of rise in substance misuse, there are incidences of increased domestic violence, rates of suicide, and self-harm. What the pandemic has do, the pandemic has let the people become more frustrated. They are very much frightened and they are angry. So, what they do, they find some they have no outlets. They find other ways to lash out. Also, we know that anxiety and depression are likely to get worse during this winter. So currently we have winter season. So all we need to do is to learn some self-help EMDR techniques that can help us feel more in control. So when talking about the EMDR in the perspective of resilience, resilience is something that we can define as a positive capacity people have to cope with stressful situations, or it can be defined as the ability to be flexible and adapt to rapidly changing circumstances. Acknowledging that there is stressful situations, but being able to focus on our abilities and capacity to respond with mental and as well as emotional strength. So we all feel stress, we all feel anxiety, but the people who are resilient, who they can cope well with the stressful situations. It doesn't mean that resilient individuals never experience negative effect, but they have more capacity to look at the events in a positive and healthy way. So we also need to become more resilient in this challenging time. We know life. We have to learn that life may never go back to the way it was. Uh, what is happening? We need to create this as a normal. So, EMDR, we will learn about the EMDR that can be used for symptom relief as well as for a comprehensive treatment. Today, we will talk about, as I earlier said, that low intensity EMDR techniques that anyone can use to be more safe and to be more in control. So, what EMDR do? EMDR processes our negative experiences and leads these experiences towards an adaptive self-enhancing perspective that guide our future behavior. So next slide please. So we also need to understand sense of coherence. Sense of coherence can be best defined in the light of three important qualities of resilience. So number one is the comprehension of an event. What resilient people do, they focus on what is happening and how it is happening, rather than focusing on why it something has happened to us or it's not happening to others. So all we need to do is just focus on what is happening and why, what how it is happening, to be in present, to feel more safe and to feel more calm. The second one is the manageability. The manageability is another quality of resilient people. So they use constructive strategies to cope with an event. What is happening is difficult, but it can be managed. So they use constructive strategies, and then is the positive meaning. They associate a positive meaning with an experience. So when we associate a positive meaning, so we can cope well. We can identify our abilities and capacity to cope, to reduce stress and anxieties. Next slide, please. So Now I will talk about the EMDR principles to enhance resilience and improve well-being. So first one is the resourcing. We need to do is to create a resource. How we can do this? We need to focus on a positive action that were taken in a previous stressful situation and a moment of adaptive action. This could include physical as well as mental actions. So focusing on the adaptive actions that we adopt in previous stressful situations can help you feel the ability and capability to respond this with a positive state of mind to this stressful situation. The next one is bilateral stimulation. We need to do is to enhance the adaptive action with bilateral stimulations. We can do eye movements, or we can do the tappings, or we can do butterfly hugs. I will I will show you how you can do butterfly hug in a very next slide. But first we will learn the remaining principles. The next one is keyword. To find a keyword with this resourceful coping. Keyword can be a name of a person, it can be a name of a thing, place, or anything that quickly reminds you of the resourceful coping. And then you need to do rehearsals by imagining an anticipated stressful situation while experiencing positive state of mind with keyword. And if you feel positive and a positive frame of mind emerge, then we need to do again bilateral stimulations to reinforce it. As Safa said that we in EMDR we focus on present as well as in the future, that how we will cope in the future situations. Next, please. So now I am going to provide you with some EMDR techniques that anyone can use. It can mental health professionals, psychiatrists, doctors, general population, anyone can use these techniques. And to calm yourself whenever you need and whenever it seems appropriate. So if you can please play the video. This is butterfly hug. We will see how we can do butterfly hug.
बटरफ्लाई हग मुश्किल वक्त, हालात या परेशानी में खुद को पुरसुकून रखने के लिए एक ऐसे तरीक़ेकार है या मश्क है जिसे हम किसी भी वक्त अपने जज्बात की शिद्दत को कम करने के लिए, परेशानी को कम करने या अपनी अच्छी यादों को और अच्छे वक्त को दोबारा से याद करने और उस वक्त आपने कैसा महसूस किया था, उन सबको दोहराने के लिए इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं। पहले मैं आपको ये बताऊंगी कि बटरफ्लाई हग कैसे किया जाता है। अपने दोनों बाजुओं को अपने सीने पर एक दूसरे के ऊपर इस तरह से रखें कि आपका बायां हाथ आपकी दाएं तरफ हो और आपका दायां हाथ बाएं तरफ हो। अपने दोनों अंगूठों को आपस में फंसाकर कॉलर की हड्डी के बिल्कुल दरमियानी जगह पर रख लें। अब आप अपनी हथेलियों को अपने सीने पर महसूस कर सकते हैं और आपके हाथ की पहली उंगली की नोक आपको अपनी कॉलर की हड्डी पर महसूस हो रही होगी। हाथों और उंगलियों का रुख कंधे की तरफ करें। अब आप महसूस करेंगे कि आपके हाथ एक तितली की शक्ल में आ गए। अब आप अपनी आंखें बंद कर लें या फिर आधी आंखें इस तरह खुली रखें कि आपकी नजर नाक की नोक की तरफ हो। इसके बाद अपने हाथों को बारी बारी इस तरह हिलाएं जैसे तितली अपने पर हिलाती है, लेकिन बारी बारी। पहले बायां हाथ, फिर दायां हाथ, फिर बायां हाथ और फिर दायां हाथ। हाथों को हिलाने की रफ्तार ऐसी हो जो आपके लिए आरामदेह हो। اسی طرح کرتے رہیں، پہلے بایاں، پھر دایاں، بایاں، دایاں، ایسے جیسے آپ کسی کو تھپک رہے ہوں اور اپنے کسی پیارے کو سکون پہنچا رہے ہوں۔ تھپکی کو محسوس کریں۔ بہت خوب، آپ بہت اچھا کر رہے ہیں۔ اپنے ہاتھوں کو اسی طرح ہلاتے رہیں۔ آہستہ آہستہ گہری سانس لیں، اپنے ذہن پہ چلنے والے خیالات پر غور کریں اور دیکھیں کہ اس وقت آپ کیسا محسوس کر رہے ہیں۔ مثال کے طور پر ذہنی خیالات، تصاویر، آس پاس کی آوازوں، خوشبو یا بدبو یا جسمانی احساسات پر غور کریں۔ ان تمام خیالات کو بدلنے یا ختم کرنے کی کوشش نہ کریں اور نہ ہی ان کو اچھا یا برا سمجھیں۔ ان خیالات یا ان سوچوں کو بادل کی طرح گزرنے دیں۔ چلیں، اب ہم گہری سانس لیتے ہیں۔ مشکل صورتحال میں پرسکون رہنے کی مشق شروع کرتے ہیں۔ جب آپ ایک گہری سانس کھینچ لیں تو ایک لمحے کے لیے رکھیں اور قدرتی طور پر سانس باہر نکالیں۔ اب اسی رفتار سے آہستہ آہستہ تھپکی دینا شروع کریں۔ پہلے دائیں، پھر بائیں۔ زبردست۔ صرف سانس پر غور کریں۔ بہت خوب۔ جسمانی احساسات پر غور کریں، آرام سے تھپکی دیتے رہیں اور اپنے آپ کو اس لمحے سے لطف اندوز ہونے دیں۔ اب آپ اس میں کسی منظر، انسان یا کسی ایسی چیز کے بارے میں سوچیں جس کے ساتھ آپ کی اچھی یادیں جڑی ہوئی ہوں، جیسے کہ کوئی مثبت یا اچھی اور خوشی کے احساس دلانے والی یاد کے بارے میں سوچیں، یا کسی پیاری سکون والی جگہ، اس کے بارے میں سوچیں۔ اس وقت کے بارے میں سوچیں جب آپ نے خود کو مضبوط یا خود کے بارے میں اچھا محسوس کیا۔ تھوڑا وقت لیں اور غور کریں کہ آپ کے ذہن میں کیا آیا۔ اس یاد پر غور کریں اور سوچیں کہ اس وقت آپ کیسا محسوس کر رہے ہیں۔ جسمانی احساسات پر غور کریں اور اس کے ساتھ ساتھ بٹرفلائی ہگ کو جاری رکھیں۔ جیسے جیسے آپ تھپتھپاتے رہیں، سانس کو ایک ہی رفتار سے جاری رکھیں۔ اپنے آپ کو اس لمحے سے لطف اندوز ہونے دیں۔ کیا کوئی ایسا لفظ ہے جو آپ کے احساسات کو بیان کر سکے، جیسا کہ پرسکون، محفوظ، آرام دہ، یا پھر پرامن، یا کچھ بھی جو آپ کو اچھا لگے؟ اس لفظ کو سوچیں اور اس کے جڑے ہوئے اچھے احساسات اور جذبات پر غور کریں۔ اب تھپتھپانا جاری رکھتے ہوئے اپنے بارے میں مثبت الفاظ جمع کرتے جائیں، یا یہ سوچیں کہ آپ آنے والے مشکل حالات کا کس طرح سامنا کرنا چاہیں گے۔ جیسے کہ یہ آپ سوچ سکتے ہیں کہ یہ سب مجھ سے پیار کرتے ہیں، یا مجھ میں کئی خوبیاں ہیں، میں خود کو سنبھال سکتا ہوں، میں بہت اچھا ہوں، میں صرف اپنی پوری کوشش کر سکتا ہوں۔ جو بھی موجودہ صورت میں آپ کے مطابق ٹھیک ہو، آپ وہ سوچ سکتے ہیں۔ جب آپ ان الفاظ کو آہستہ آواز میں یا اپنے ذہن میں اپنے لیے دہرا رہے ہوں تو بٹرفلائی ہگ جاری رکھیں۔ और सांस को एक ही रफ्तार से जारी रखें। गौर करें कि इन अल्फाज को कहने से आप कैसा महसूस करते हैं और अपने आप को इस लम्हे से लुत्फअंदोज होने दें। जब तक आपको जरूरत हो जारी रखें, या जब तक आप पुरसुकून महसूस ना कर सकें तब तक आरामदेह रफ्तार से सांस को अंदर बाहर करें और थपकना जारी रखें। जब आपको महसूस हो कि आज के लिए इतना काफी है तो एक लम्हे के लिए रुकें और अपने हाथों को अपने सीने पर ही रहने दें। अब आप गहरी सांस अंदर खींच लें और कुछ सेकंड बाद सांस बाहर निकालें। अपने तवज्जो को अपने इर्द गिर्द की जगह और आवाजों पर वापस लाएं। याद रखें कि आप दिन में जितनी बार चाहें उतनी ही बार इस मश्क को कर सकते हैं, चाहे 1 या 2 मिनट के लिए करें। जितनी ज्यादा दफा आप ये मश्क करेंगे उतनी ही जल्दी ये मुस्बत एहसासात खुद ब खुद आना शुरू हो जाएंगे। इससे आपको मौजूदा लम्हे में वापस आने और अपने जज्बाती हालात को पुरसुकून करने में मदद मिलेगी। आप में से हर एक का इस मश्क को तवज्जो के साथ करने का बहुत शुक्रिया।
Can you please stop this and show the slides? So this was the grounding and resilience exercise through butterfly hug. People are using this, practicing this exercise, and it really helpful. Next slide, please. So the next exercise is present safety exercise with 4 elements. First of all, what we need to do is to focus on our body and notice how much stress you feel now from 0 to 10. So 0 means low stress and 10 means you feel very stressed, is very high stress. So first of all, starting with your feet. First, you need to sit on a calm, comfortable place. Then beginning with the first element of earth, place both feet on the ground and feel the floor, ground, and the chair supporting you. If you are sitting on a couch or bed, you can feel the stuff. So with your hands or your feet. So looking around, first you need to notice 3 things in your room. It could be any voices that you can hear in your room, smell, you can smell the room, any, and then you can feel the temperature of the room or anything else that you can notice in your room. So after this, you need to take a pause, and then you need to notice with whom you are sharing the room. If you are not sharing room with anyone else, you can imagine your loved ones that are very important to your life, and you can bring their picture in your mind, and you can say that you are not alone and we are all connected. Just feel that you are in here and now, and you are more safe, and you are in the present. Next slide, please. After this, the next element is the air. The next step is to notice your breath. Noticing breath, and then you need to breath in through your nose, letting the air go all the way to your stomach as you count 4 seconds. And then you need to hold it for 2 seconds and then breath out for 4 seconds. Do this do these breaths 6 times, and then you can bring your awareness back to the room. Next slide, please. After this, the third element is water. You need to notice, is your mouth dry or do you have saliva? As we know, when we are anxious or when we are stressed, our mouth often dries up. But when we are making saliva, it is a sign that we are relaxing. So we need to focus on, is our mouth is making the saliva or not. So now we need to do is to take a minute or two to make more and more saliva. If you feel any trouble to make the saliva, you can imagine a taste of a lemon, and then you can make more and more saliva. So as you do this, you may notice that you have more and more focus on and control of your thoughts and body. The all these steps are to realize that we can control our thoughts rather than letting thoughts controlling us. Next slide, please. Now, this is the final step. With your feet on the ground, breathing more deeply and slowly, making more and more saliva, we move to the fourth element, that is fire or light. This is to bring up an image or a place or a situation that helps you feel calmer and safer. You can call this your safe or calm place. Anything that reminds you of this safe and calm place, situation, or activity. It could be a sketch, a symbol, or word. You just, when you develop your calm place, you just say the word and it brings your mind to the safe or calm place. So, when you create your calm place, then you need to notice what you feel, and when you connect it to the place, how you feel in the body. And we need to keep noticing how you feel in your body when you focus on your safe or calm place, giving it a name and strengthening the connection with the longer step of butterfly hugs. As you say the name, you do the butterfly hugs, you do the breathing, and you imagine your calm place. So after this, you repeat these steps 3 to 5 times, and then you again notice your body. You scan your body and you notice how much stress you now feel from 0 to 10. So if we repeat this exercise 6 to 10 times, this really works very well. Next slide, please. The next one is the woo exercise. This is a simple breathing exercise. It will help regulate our body and reach stabilization. So the first step is to get seated on a comfortable place. Then you need to notice your breath and take a deep breath in. And when you breathe out, then you need to allow yourself to make a sound with the word woo. When you breathe in, you hold the breath for 2 to 3 seconds, and when you exhale, you just make a noise of woo. When you are feeling very agitated and frustrated, then this exercise works really well. So repeating this breathe in and breath out for 3 to 5 times, you can now do butterfly hugs with this, and you can imagine your safe and calm place as well. Repeat this 3 to 5 times, or as long as you can do this. You can even repeat this exercise after every hour, and this is very helpful to to let you to be in more control and to be resilient. So when we notice that we notice these 3 exercises, the breathing is one of the most important component of this exercise. So why? Because breathing is one of the most fascinating and powerful recovery resource. When we take a slow breath in the nose and exhale out through our mouth, we are stimulating both the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So that's why breathing is one of the most one of the element of these exercises, and it can give you your brain and your body a much needed break. Next slide, please. So these are the EMDR takeaways. The first of all, I want to say that these are not standard EMDR, but these are low intensity EMDR techniques that anyone can practice. And what we need to and the takeaways of are we need to remind ourselves that we have the skill to respond to stressful situations in a very healthy and positive way, and we have the skills and capacity to respond very well. And we need to explore and normalize and validate to identify and process through distress as needed. So this is these are the very simple and very easy techniques that anyone of us can practice. So please practice these exercises and please share your experiences with us. So thank you. That's all by my side. If you have any questions, we are happy to answer.